Call this meeting of the Willits City Council of September 27th to order. Dolores, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong. Here. Rodriguez.
Present.
Stransky.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Present.
Mayor Connie.
Yes, thank you. Start with a pledge to the flag. Davey, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That's just the first test, right, Greta? Yes.
Mayor Connie.
Yes.
I need to announce that the closed session item, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation will be postponed until October 11th meeting.
Okay, thank you. I understand the city's attorney is unavailable tonight, so that's the reason for the delay. Thank you. All right, we'll start with public communications. The City Council welcomes participation in its meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person so that everyone has an opportunity to address the council. To expedite matters and avoid repetition, whenever any group of persons wishes to address the council on the same subject matter, I may request the group appoint a spokesperson. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council, which are not on this evening's posted agenda. Public criticism of the City Council, its commissions, boards, and agencies will not be prohibited. The City Council can take no action on non-agendized items. Would anyone tonight like to speak to an item not on the posted agenda? Dolores, did we get any emails?
We did not receive any.
Okay, thank you. All right, going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to move on to public matters. We have none this evening. We also have no ordinances to enact, so that takes us to the consent calendar. On this evening's consent calendar, we have the City Council minutes from September 13th. These items are considered routine, and that council will take action with a single motion and roll call vote. Do any council members have questions or comments about September 13th minutes? Anybody from the public? Comments about the September 13th minutes? Okay,
I move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Stransky.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mayor Connie.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have some monthly activity reports included in the packet. These do not require action by the City Council, but are of public interest. We have a business license activity report and a building permit activity report, both from August of this year. Anybody who would like to look at those may access them on the city's website. We have no items under commissions, agencies, and authorities, so we'll move on to item 8, our city manager reports and recommendations. The first item is the proposal to retain EBA engineering for hydraulic services. And Brian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me just get my notes primed here. So this first item is a proposal from one of our consultants who is responsible, has done a lot of work for the city regarding the groundwater project, the multiple phases. This project extends from a discussion that the council had back on July 26th when you had the opportunity to consider and ultimately approve a much more elaborate flow model to look at the physical characteristics of the aquifer. During that discussion, there was comments raised by the council as what do we know, what do we don't know about arsenic in that aquifer, and if additional pumping from our Elias well impacts or basically allows that arsenic that's in the aquifer that we know is there to make it more mobile or move through the strata, the underground rock formations. So took the comments from the council, met with EBA staff, and we looked at all the parameters and what we were doing, what options are available, what we can do, knowing that this project would be paired with that flow model. So one is contingent on the other, and that's why if you look on the proposal schedule, it's projected out well over a year because it needs to rely on the ground flow, the ground flow model to be done. It's most of it to be done to allow this work to be following its footsteps.
questions from council? I guess I just don't know exactly what the word limited means, exactly how much data we will not know after this is done. But I like the idea that we're getting this, because that was a concern that I had about our, yeah.
To be full disclosure, this is not a very elaborate, for roughly $15,000 to $20,000. You're not going to get multiple data points. We're not sinking new wells. So it is a study that's going to be almost a phase 1 environmental study review, which is going to be looking at existing data points, existing data that has been collected, looking at some well logs from existing wells, and also, as I said, look at the modeling that is going to be part of the flow model exercise.
Yeah.
So it is going to be looking at some of the elements. It's going to look at, basically we know that there's traces of arsenic on the Park well. It's not showing up at the Elias well or as you go north in the valley. So this exercise is looking at how mobile is arsenic in that aquifer. Is the aquifer, let me back up. I'm trying to recall my geology, hydrology, more like 505 classes more than 101, but we know that there's some components of the aquifer that are large cavities or basins, and some of it is basically water that is stored in rock strata, in between layers and the porous spaces in the different rock formations. We don't know how that influences the movement of the water, and then how much it takes, or how fluid is the arsenic deposits.
Yeah, yeah. I do feel very confident this is a step in the right direction, and we'll know more after this as to whether we will have to invest in a bigger study. But it's moving in the right direction to try to isolate that concern, and I applaud that.
Yeah, the thing I noticed about this was that it was already taking existing data and just collecting it and presenting it to us in a format that we could understand and have discussion about, but there wouldn't be any sampling or testing or anything of that sort just yet. Okay.
Mary.
Do we have any literature or anything on the areas that have been blocked off at different stratus in when we did the well to next to the Elias well?
Well, that information, that well log data and the core samples, how those were described, will be used as part of the investigation.
Okay, thank you.
So, like Councilmember Rodriguez noted, we're not going out collecting a lot of whole new data. We're not going to put a test well out there. We're not going to be coring. We're not going to be drilling to 200 feet and doing sampling. That we're going to look at existing core logs. We're looking at sediment analysis, and then the well log data, and then the modeling.
And Brian, the flow data that we were doing originally, which this is going to work in concert with, some of those are wells out in the valley that
Yes.
we were already doing
Yes.
anyway. So that gives us that, at least more of a global view.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you think of every well as a data point, hopefully those wells have complete well logs. And when the driller was out there, they basically, when they pulled out the samples, they identified the material they were going through, if it was unconsolidated, consolidated, what they were experiencing. And then from that, we could piece together a subsurface geology map, a little bit more detailed, a little bit more refined than what we have now. And then from that, we can determine how the groundwater flows through, and then if arsenic is mobile. The one thing, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but one of the things the hydrologists and the engineers were saying that in a natural setting, arsenic is one of the heaviest metals. It doesn't float on top of water. It doesn't want to move. That's why you have pockets of arsenic. So the question is how dynamic is that aquifer? How much movement is there an underground river, or is it basically captured in this strata? And then that will tell you how much movement is of the arsenic.
I like the idea of using the information that we have right now so that we can make an educated decision on where we invest for step 2, because otherwise if we went too big, we might miss the mark on what we're trying to do. So,
Okay, if council has no further clarifying questions, I'm going to open it up to the public. Do we want to hear from the public on this? I mean, we're going to do that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right, so anybody out there, if you would like to make comments or ask questions, I invite you to come to the podium and state your name for the record. Nobody? Okay.
And hearing no public comment, I would like to make the motion to support this in like that this is a step, as mentioned, not a all-inclusive, but it's the step in the right direction and something we owe our ratepayers. I think if, the only thing I want to add is if people want more extensive thing, I want to see the county pitch in. If folks out in the county have concerns, then I think our supervisor needs to be contacted by the folks in the county. But for our ratepayers, I think it's a good step in the right direction. So
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the accompanying resolution accepting the proposal by EDA. Dolores, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
yes.
Mayor Condon?
Yes, thank you. All right, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to say my old stratigraphy professor would have been proud of me, recalling this from 30-plus years. How many years, how many times I was in a lab doing fee samples of sediments. It was going to come back and bug me one of these days. All right, moving on. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Walter Kolon as our new Director of Services and Facilities. Walter has hit the ground running. He has brought a lot of knowledge, extensive knowledge on construction practices, construction management, project management. He's proven his worth so far, getting the West Mendocino Avenue project, first phase, off the ground and trying to ease some of the rough spots that we encountered with mobilization and public engagement and getting the message out there. We learned some very important lessons that we'll return to the council in the future. He has ingrained himself with the team out there. He's worked well with City Hall staff. He's understanding where we are with budgets, and we're getting him out there meeting with consultants and looking at the various projects that we are delineating and putting forward. We have basically a menu of capital improvement projects for the next year. Some of them you're already aware of, some of them you've been partially made aware of. We'll get them to you sooner than later. So, thank you, Walter, for being part of the team member, a valuable team member as you've been here over 2 weeks now, coming up on 2 weeks. He got the memo, he's in a suit there, pretty impressive. And, I do know he is, like I said, he's been a worthy addition to us, so I appreciate his presence.
Welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Just on the follow-up on that, I do know the council is aware that that department has gone through some staffing changes over the last couple of weeks. That things happen, unfortunately, was not out of control. Basically, we're looking at how we can utilize staff. We're a small organization. Teamwork and team dynamics are very important, and sometimes it's not the right fit or the right person fits into the position, or the organization wants to go in a different direction through the leadership that has been expressed from the council, through management, and ultimately to the departments. So Walter is a good combination for what we're looking to do, and services and facilities will continue to provide exceptional commitment to this community under his guidance.
And I understand that you'll be out for 2 weeks under a previous
I
engagement?
have previous commitments and
Okay.
everything, but I'll be right back, and I may cut some of that short to come back and work on things. There's a lot of things to do. So looking forward to it.
We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else, Brian?
Oh, yes. We're just moving along here. It's kind of surprising. I'm not getting this
Well,
quick.
I was going to ask, since you brought up the we're talking about services and facilities, and you touched just a little bit on the Mendocino project. Will it be a time later in the evening, or is now the appropriate time to maybe talk about any changes to that Mendocino Avenue project?
You can introduce it now. We'll do the best we can to answer the questions that you have.
Well, I just know that there's been lots of concerns and feedback about the timing, because we had the delay due to supplies. And so the timing of the Mendocino project ended up happening at the same time as public school is in session, and the neighbors were already anticipating, the challenges that go with construction in front of your home, and then with it happening the same time as school. And I'm just wondering if we could share with the community, has there been any changes? Have we changed the scope of the hours? Will there be any evening hours? What kinds of changes may have happened?
I can address some of that.
Okay.
What we've done is work with the contractor Argonaut. They shifted where their start area was to lessen the impact further down West Mendocino Avenue. It's giving the school a good chance to understand the traffic patterns. We haven't disrupted their traffic patterns anyway. Yes, there was a delay because of materials, and it's unfortunate because it's coming into a winter season. It's a relatively short project, so it's going to go very smoothly. They hit it on Monday and are moving very quickly. They're being very organized. I've been in outreach with the community right now, and the neighbors are very pleased how things are going. There was a little rough patch with the school just in getting information out there about the traffic and where it was going to lead through. And so far, I think we've got that handled really well, how we're situating the traffic patterns and not to affect the school at all and everything. So we're going to keep the public updated every week with updates and from the contractor and from the city. And so we're going to welcome the public to ask any questions and stuff. And as we go along, if we see that there's going to be any impacts, we'll make adjustments. The contractor's very flexible. And I'm really anticipating not much impact on the traffic and stuff with the school or the neighbors and everything. And like I said, we're going to keep on top of it to make sure that people are well informed and we can react to anything and make changes if we have to. Like I said, to lessen the impact on the project. It's necessary, this project, to get done before winter. They have until, I think, November 22nd, but they anticipate being done before that and everything, the whole project. So we're hoping it's going to be smooth and anticipated.
Thank you. There's been several questions about whether or not the city coordinated initially with the school district, and I know that myself and other council members, you weren't here then, but had asked multiple times if we were coordinating with the school district, and it was my understanding we were, and I just am looking for affirmation that we have been in discussions on this project with the school district and continue to have those discussions.
I met with the superintendent. We're going to meet weekly. Yeah, apparently there was a little bit of just between transition points and like other that week that they hadn't had a full knowledge of the traffic report. And so we got that to them right away and made sure that they're included in all the, future, every week and stuff. We'll have meetings and make sure they're included so they can get information to the parents and the community. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Walter, is there a number that residents can call, or, I think I heard that there is, but I kind of wanted to get it out there.
There is. We've been sending out, we'll send out every Friday and put on our website, and the contractor is going to be putting out flyers to all the homes. Argonaut Construction is listed on there, and my number is listed on there.
Okay.
Yes, so they can call either of us anytime if there's any problems or questions, and we'll take care of it. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a,
Can I make a quick comment? I just wanted to let you know that I received a number of concerned calls from citizens about this, neighbors in that area. But I did get 2 calls today from people who were very excited about the project and were grateful that it was underway. So.
Yeah. I've been getting really great feedback from the neighbors as I go every day and check out. I've got some pictures here if you want to, just see what's going on with it. I don't know if you're interested in stuff.
Yeah.
Just to see the first couple days, and they're doing very well, the contractors. Like I said, trying to keep it very low impact for the people in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
like I said earlier, this project, and actually it was a nice project to get this lesson across the organization. As we move forward, we are going to, as we delineate projects, scope projects, present projects, either their schedule or their implementation phases, important component will be media engagement, public engagement, media release, information release. That is a whole new paradigm that we're going to embark on. We still don't know how that entails, but, you know, we definitely need to do a better job in getting information out and timely information, not just related to construction projects. We're starting to do a little better on groundwater episodes, but there's a whole other, you know, feel-good factors, bad stories, situations. We're going to recognize, we're going to put together a plan internally, and we're going to follow through to get that information out there in timely, effective components.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that we received a lot of intense feedback after the last groundwater incident with the hydrant, and feeling like there was limited communication from the city was a big gripe with the community. So hearing that your intent is to change that process and build communication into all of the projects is, I think, needed and appreciated.
One of the, just talking about groundwater, and we are going to transition to a groundwater item here on the agenda.
Sabrina might have had one more question about this project.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to state that sometimes the city posts, and as you're thinking about that plan, they post something, but there isn't always somebody available from the city who maybe made the post or that's responsible for the post to follow up to answer citizens' questions. And so it's sometimes left to council members, and generally, Greta's the mayor, and so generally her or I are responding. But I'm always in the back of my head thinking about trainings that I've gone to, about making sure that we're not having a serial meeting and responding, and it would be helpful if the city posts, if the plan would be for the city to follow up, so that we don't find ourselves in that predicament.
Okay, so that, what we're really good at, or reasonably good, and getting better at, is the first blast, right? Where we start losing momentum is the follow-up, you know, the current updates, the status report, what is happening, what is the response, how can residents turn to the city, which agency, which department, which phone number for follow-up.
Yes.
That is where we need to pick up the pace, and we're going to make a commitment to it. And that, just going back to the groundwater situation, we have turned a corner on how we do our first response when an incident occurs internally, what staff needs to talk to what staff, what the questions need to be asked, who to reach out to, who needs to go out in the field and contact or interact with the public, and what information is relevant coming back to us. We have that first step well documented, and it's a well-oiled process. Phase 2, Phase 3, like I said, it drops off, and that's where we need to, we can do better, and we will do better.
Fair enough.
Okay. I may continue on the next item. Thank you. So, this is another item that the council was, you know, looking at, and I'm just throwing it out here for a discussion point. It's on the verbal reports, no action, but, you know, ultimately, if the council thinks there's opportunities to put something together for your consideration at a later meeting, we'll be more than willing to do it. So, brown water. There's a lot of reasons why it occurs. We are throwing a lot of effort into it to mitigate as much as we can on the public infrastructure side, the city side. But we also have a lot of aging supply lines that supply properties from the main to the residents. A lot of the lines have failed, settlement has occurred, interruption through tree roots, decay of the pipes themselves. And that creates problems for property owners. They say, oh, I have a brown water. They know about brown water. I turned on my tap this morning. I got brown water. And we, like I said, we kick ourselves into action, and staff goes out there and responds and tests, and we find no incident. We didn't have a hydrant hit. We didn't do any repairs. We didn't have any shock systems through the system. So it really becomes a problem on the property owner side. So one of the things we would like to do is consider putting together a program that would assist property owners with replacing aging water supply lines. You know, the council has made a commitment, and we're going to be presenting you with we already have, and we're going to try to be implementing that early next year. The underground utility abatement program, which is nearly $1 million plus on replacing the steel lines. But we also recognize, as I said, there's a concern on the private property side. Communities have similar programs. Either they're replacing lead supply lines, they're replacing sewer laterals that have decayed, and then through that side they have the I&I problem where there is additional groundwater entering the system, and it's additional processing needs to be done at the wastewater treatment side of things. But this would directly relate to supply lines, and so the question here is this something the council would like to consider and some options brought forward, and we are more than willing to do that, or is it something that maybe we're not there yet as an organization?
I would support it, and then I'd also like for the city to consider some sort of plan. This last time when the water turned brown, it wasn't just faintly brown. For many residents, and myself included, both in my home and my businesses, it was a very, very dark, muddy brown, and there's no way you're gonna serve that or drink it yourself. At times, not even shower in it. And I was thinking about how I had the resources to go out and purchase bottled water. But there are families that reached out to me that didn't have the resources to purchase bottled water or have other means. And I think that in the interim, I would like to see us come up with some kind of a plan where people can get, 5 gallons of water, whatever it may be, so that their needs can be met. Not everybody's in a position where they can go to the grocery store and buy something. So I'm wondering if we could put something together fairly soon to make sure that that basic need is being met for everybody in the short term.
We can look into it.
I would support that as well. I think it's also, and I do support this idea of creating some kind of a fund for residents to improve either their internal pipes or their laterals. I've mentioned before in public session that we did that at my house and did see a marked difference in water quality in the incidences of brown at our home. I would also encourage us to start thinking about whether or not we should look into some kind of external audit of our water distribution system. Not in any way doubting the integrity of our staff and the ideas that they've already put forward, but to have some sort of external check on whether or not our plans for improving the distribution system are reasonable and will move us forward in the direction that our community needs us to go in. I feel like there are a lot of people out there who would like to hear a different perspective on whether or not the decisions that this and previous councils have made to improve the distribution system are actually going to deliver results. I don't know.
I would also support that.
Thank you. I don't know how we approach that, but I do think that would be something that would help put our community at ease.
And I mentioned that to Scott before when we've chatted, because, I know that he's done a lot of work there in the Harris Manor subdivision, where he's gone out and he's shown me that the source water coming from the city was clear, but a lot of the water there, was probably...
That's one of the neighborhoods that has problems with their supply lines.
And I think in our conversation we had that day, I said, maybe same kind of along the way that Greta's talking about, that I said, is there something out there that, for electric devices, is UL approved or something? Is there some sort of certification out there that we could show the public, look, we are using best practices, and I get it when somebody hits a fire hydrant or runs into it, stuff's going to happen. I think the public needs to come to grips that that's not just Willits, that's every other water system out there. Until we get to that point to where all water mains are underneath the ground, and even then, earthquakes or whatever could cause issues. But
we'll explore the options and return them to the council for your consideration. But I just want to make it clear, and for the members of the audience and the public, is that ultimately our water is tested through state and federal guidelines, and we comply with every test best results.
Oh, and I have no doubt, but, you know, I think.
But I see what you're saying, I mean, that's the end product, but are we duplicating, or can we make it more efficient in how we identifying repairs or upgrades to the system to reduce the likelihood of groundwater episodes?
And I think all we want here is to show the public transparency that,
Oh, yeah.
hey, that we're being transparent. It's not like, you know, it's kind of like telling people, yeah, the sky is blue, and it is blue, but some folks are going to doubt whether it's blue or not. And I think that's one aspect of it. And again, I would support what's been brought here. And again, it's no doubt on the system. It's just,
No, I mean, I think it's a rational idea, because we haven't done a comprehensive, from start to finish, on the distribution side.
you know, and I want to put it on record too, that every council member here, we're all drinking, you know, obviously if it comes out brown, we're not going to drink it just like you guys are, but we're drinking the same water. I drink tap water, you know, I mean, obviously I drink Diet Pepsi too, but I use the city water system to wash my clothes, to do whatever, and all that other good stuff. So we're using the same system that you guys are using, so.
Sabrina, and then I have a comment to make as well.
I just wanted to state that most of the concerns I have are not about the water testing during a normal period. The questions are really about the quality of the water when it's brown. That is the question, like, people want to know, so are we testing the water when the water's brown, and is the water safe? And they want to hear it not just from the city, but they want to hear from an outside source that, yes, it's safe to drink that brown water, because when you're looking at that glass of brown water, it doesn't feel safe. And like Jerry said, he drinks the tap water. I drink the tap water too. I'm not a bottled water drinker in general, and I'm not going to drink the water when it's brown.
Yes, so just, I don't want to sound like Scott, because he has this message far better, he can perform it
I think we
better
just
than I
want testing when it's brown.
do. And the thing is it's the appearance and the aesthetics of that brown water. I mean, it's not encouraging to drink, but you have to think about it, that the water is going through those supply lines that already has that sediment in it. It's already, you know, it's already flowing through those lines.
I don't
It's just now
think-
you have this accumulation.
I don't think you're going to convince me.
No, I'm not convincing.
Many of
It's just-
us,
it's
that
just
if I
reality.
had a chocolate brown, I'm drinking tea tonight, it's brown, that came out of the tap.
Yeah.
I'm going to taste it. It's not just about what I see. Like, I'm not convinced that it would be healthy for me to drink. And
Well,
I'm not even sure that an outside agency could convince me it would be safe. But it's worth doing the study.
Yeah, I think that anybody who has visited our water treatment plant will feel confident in the quality of water that's coming out of the treatment plant. It's beautiful. What we're not as confident about is the distribution system, which is our old and aging infrastructure, and the city is working on improving that. But what I think would help put the council and the public at ease is if we had some sort of additional stamp of approval that our plan of moving forward and addressing the infrastructure needs is the best idea. Or if there are other ideas that we should be looking at implementing. So I think that's what we're all asking, is some
No, I hear that. I hear that.
reassurance that we're on a good path and match now.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the distinction between our distribution system and each property owner's
Yes.
own supply line. And we have an aging, residential units here, and a lot of these have the pipe just from the street to the house is where some of the contamination may be happening. So your first question, I think, was, should the city offer something like, home improvement loans specifically to address those problem
Yes.
places? I mean, the first thing is to determine, is your groundwater your own problem, or is it the city's problem? Obviously, if it's the city's problem, these other comments have to do with that. Are we doing the most efficient system of upgrading so that we're not the problem? But I think it's really a good idea also to offer our residents some kind of low-interest options for if they need to actually improve their own lines.
So that was another yes.
Yes.
So, but I don't want to spend too much much time on our distribution system if most of the problem is
Okay.
individuals.
I hear what the council's concerns are and the instructions that you're providing to me. I'm just going to throw it back in return. That we'll look at retaining a consultant that could, has the capacity to look at, the infrastructure side, but also has some experience on how to deal on the private property side, and maybe compose several program options for you to consider. Revolving loan fund, direct cost, offset property taxes.
Perfect.
Things like that.
And potentially some kind of look at providing immediate assistance when we have a groundwater event.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes, all of the above.
Could we,
Thank you.
Within reason. It's going to be.
I think that's a worthy investment. I mean, it's, as we've all said multiple times, the biggest issues that we hear from the public over and over again are groundwater and roads.
Yeah.
And so those are the things.
I agree with you, and
we need
that's,
to-
okay.
and we know groundwater's not your fault, we're sorry, it's something you have to deal with.
That's not the point. The point here is we're going to fix it.
And I do want to thank we don't have anyone here from the water department tonight, but I do want to thank the water crew because they do a stellar job when we have groundwater incidents, and they really do make an effort to go out to each individual home when someone complains about groundwater, and they are out there and really doing the best for our community. So I wanted to acknowledge that as well.
May I say something? I was a water operator before, distribution operator, and I live here in town. And I'm in an unusual situation, my wife and I, where we have thousands of feet of steel pipe that run from our meter through a cow pasture to our house. And, I gotta say, your Diet Pepsi's actually more harmful than the water in our system. Water looks unappealing, but, in the United States and California, we have extremely high levels of quality on our water. It doesn't look good if you let it settle out. It's not harmful, but it does sometimes have an odor or a taste and stuff. But I think the department, from what I've seen, has done a great job of addressing it and looking at the future plans that are being made. It's a high priority to get this done and stuff, and make the people feel that it's safe. And they know they have drinkable water and stuff that's safe. And I think this is partly what Brian's been doing. Behind the scenes, I don't think people realize how much effort is going into it. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a big part of what the council's going to see in the future and stuff. And we can always talk about it more and stuff, what our plans are.
Great, thank you.
Okay, lastly, just kind of a quick notice that this Saturday will be the Harvest Moon Festival. The Harvest Moon Festival this Saturday, street closure. Community development basically extends a warm welcome and an invite to council members and members of the public to attend. The city's going to have at least 2 booths or tables present. I think one is related to community development. They're going to be engaging the public on several community development projects, general plan, land use element, East Commercial Street corridor, some park elements. There'll be a survey where the public can provide comments, groundwater issues, resolve them, but also planning related and kind of the future of this community, from a visionary perspective. And also, I believe the police department's kind of a presence there as well. So come out and meet the officers and go from there. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to department recommendations. These are action items. We're at 9A. The first is to adopt a resolution awarding a contract to DMR Builders for the Rodeo Grounds bathroom and concession stand repair project. Tonight we'll hear from our building official, Mr. Davey Bowles.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Thank you. I'm excited to be here to put before you with the recommendation to adopt a resolution awarding the contract to DMR. So quick background. In unprecedented storms this winter, we had major damage to the rodeo grounds from a falling tree, hit the concession stand as well as the bathrooms. We're now at the point where we have released plans for a public bid. We received 4 bids. Staff reviewed all the bids, and we deemed the lowest bidder, DMR Builders, the responsive bidder. So we are staff's recommendations to adopt a resolution approving a construction contract with DMR Builders for the repair for $248,830. and authorize city manager to execute that contract and change orders up to 10% of the construction value. As far as fiscal impact, the city is going to cover the cost with funds we have, current fund balances. We fully anticipate the insurance company to pay for the damages. In addition, we have requested FEMA money, and we anticipate that FEMA will probably end up covering a small portion of that, which would be the balance between the actual cost and the insurance covering. That's yet to be seen. Insurance might cover it all. We'll get to that point at the end. This does touch on one of the adopted goals, 2021 adopted goals, as far as improving our infrastructure. Part of the reason why this project didn't instantly go forward was that, when we evaluated the existing bathrooms over there, we noted that they're far, they're substandard to what a public facility should be as far as bathroom partitions, wall components, flooring components, venting, plumbing, and all that stuff needs to be brought up to current code. And the benefit to that is it also makes that far superior structure for long-term maintenance. That building's going to last a lot longer as far as still needing to be cleaned and maintained and operated. And it'll have current standards what people are used to as far as going to public facilities. It'll be one of the nicer facilities in town. So I'm excited that we're at this point. We've already been in contact with DMR. They've reached out in anticipation that this will be awarded, and they wanted to have a meeting next week on site, and they're anxious to get started. So we're excited to work with them. We hope this is going to be successful. And I'm open to questions if you guys have any.
The $1 million question for every woman in Willits who's gone to the rodeo and had a beer or two: will there be more bathroom stalls?
Unfortunately, the project does not enlarge it.
Dang it.
We have the same number of stalls. They will be much nicer doors, so we have standard partitions, so you won't be putting your foot up, holding the door shut. Obviously, the standard functionality of baby changing stations, things that are supposed to be in public facilities, those will be in there. Automatic hand washers, so we're getting rid of the single sinks that, so people typically don't even stand in line because they want to get back to the show and there's only one sink available. So we're going to have the larger trough sinks, automatic hand washers to save water, urinals in the men's bathroom will be the waterless urinals to save water. So there are some upgrades getting up to a standard that we should hold ourselves to. So.
In the past, I know when I've been there, and sometimes it's, in addition to the stalls, but it's kind of smelled in there because I know there've been some sewer issues. Will this fix that plumbing issue there?
So the main issue, honestly, with odor is the
Venting?
It's actually the materials in there. So all materials in the bathroom should be a non-absorbent material, and so we have open concrete, which holds odor when stuff gets on the floor. Same with the plywood partitions and the plywood walls. And so all those materials are absorbent materials. So when splashes get in there and you have rowdy bunches, that lingers and stays. And that's a real big part of the odor issue. The odor also is, some of the venting in there. If you notice, the venting actually doesn't lead through the roof like a standard when you normally see it, right? So the urinal in the men's bathroom, ends right about here, where it's, unappealing. And so that'll all be fixed. So you have, actual venting out the roof where the odor should dissipate into the atmosphere rather than, coalesce inside the building. So hopefully those should be, with the new epoxy flooring and the FRP paneling and new non-absorbent stalls, they should be much easier to clean. We shouldn't have that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
No, I was just thinking, just maybe one, lighting.
Yes, so the current lighting in there is kind of non-existent. We do have fluorescent lighting, but the switches are not on. So typically the lighting is actually not on in there. It's just the solar tubes. So the new plan is basically new LED lighting to replace those, which have much better lighting in there, and also occupancy sensors, so those lights actually do turn on when people go on. And so currently they're operated out of a breaker on the side of the building, so someone actually has to open the breaker and turn the lights on. That rarely happens from times I've been to events there, and they rely on kind of the solar light. And so now there'll be occupancy sensors, so when someone walks in, the lights will turn on, when they leave, they'll turn back off.
My final question is actually about timing of the project. I know this has been, longer in coming than Willits Frontier Days had hoped for and that the community had hoped for. Do we have any assurance that this will definitely be done before their events next year? We are going into winter season. We don't know how construction will take place.
Yes, that's a great question. We are going into rainy season. I have spoken with the contractor. They're very aware of, they want to get it waterproof before the rainy season. In the grand scheme of this is a very small project. The bathrooms and the concession stand are very small buildings. I anticipate that to be done relatively quickly. It'll be one of the first phases of construction. Will be demo the roof, put the new roof on, get it waterproof, and then they'll be doing the interior work inside. They have one event, I believe, in October coming up, which I think will kind of hopefully coincide with, they'll finish that event and then we'll really start construction. So I believe we have, sorry I don't have the final date in here, but I believe it's the end of December is the completion date. So it should be well done prior to the next large scale event after this October.
Thank you.
Earlier, I think.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public to see if anyone has any questions or comments about this resolution to award a contract. Nobody? Okay, we'll bring it back up here and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stransky,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mayor Connie.
Yes. Thank you, Davey, for your
Thank you, Davey.
diligence on
Thank you
this.
very much.
All right, next item is discussion and possible action on the Caltrans proposed Willits Main Street Safety Enhancement Project. We will be hearing from our Community Development Director, Mr. Dusty Dooley.
I think we can just keep this brief. So back on August 23rd, we received a presentation from Caltrans and their proposal to complete what was called the Willits Corridor Safety Plan, aka a road diet. And council, after hearing the presentation, asking questions, taking public comment, very clearly articulated a thanks, but now we're good. So to follow up on that, we drafted a letter from the city council to Caltrans articulating the desire to deprogram those funds and find a different worthy project in the district. And there's a resolution attached authorizing staff to send such letter. We had this before you at the last meeting. Understand there was some concerns with the letter, so we made some modifications, simplified it, took out a few different statements. So we're looking for approval to go ahead and approve the resolution, and staff will send the letter off to Caltrans. And I'll also note again, this was articulated to council at the last meeting, but Caltrans has deprogrammed the funding and is looking to make use of the funds elsewhere. So, but again, they would appreciate getting this letter for their records.
Any questions from council? Okay, open it up to the public to see if anyone has any comments or questions about our intent to send this letter to Caltrans regarding the South Main Street Road Diet. Okay,
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution disapproving the Caltrans' current proposal and to send the letter attached.
I'll second.
may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stransky,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mayor Connie.
Yes, thank you, Dustin. All right, next item is to adopt a resolution approving a contract with Avenu Insights and Analytics to provide compliance auditing and to facilitate the collection of business license renewal services. We'll hear from our finance director, Mr. Manuel Orozco.
Thank you, Mayor Connie. Good evening. council members. What I have before you is the contract for approval to provide business license tax administrative services and also transient occupancy tax services as well. This contract is designed to help us out and bring up our staff for payroll, along the lines of also assisting us in being able to automate the process of having business licenses go through a portal within our website and actually be facilitated to go through fire department and also the code compliance in a more streamlined fashion. And the idea behind it is that also, with that, we would be also tying back into state aid reporting, which is something that we should be doing in order to be able to determine that we have the proper amount of money that we should be collecting. And the idea also is that they will be providing auditing services as well if they see a discrepancy and will be able to assist us in being able to collect properly. By automating this process, we're hoping that we will be able to bring in somewhere around 134,000 or so. How I came about that number was that I looked at delinquent current business licenses, where I would see the first 3 quarters, but not a fourth for last year, and other, or missing second quarters and things like that. So as I go through each one of the business licenses as they were collected, then I would go ahead and start to correct that. And after I got through all of them, then what I did was I put out about a 15% discount, just to try and be as conservative as possible with that. So the idea is that with $30,000 for the initial setup, it would be offset by what we collect, and then it'll be $16,000 per year for each year after the initial setup. So in order to be able to look at it from the perspective like what I was seeing, the TOT from fiscal year ending 2022 was about $463,000. For this last year, it was $433,000. And for business licenses, it was $158,000 for this last year, for fiscal year 2022. For this last year, it was $138,000. So there's a marked difference or decline in that. And I think that has to do a lot with just our ability to be able to stay up and keep it in compliance. And so I'd like to be able to automate that process.
Lots of questions. Go ahead.
I would like to know how much the whole thing is going to cost over the time period of 5 years.
The whole thing cost $30,662 in the first year and $16,000 for each additional year. So by quick adding up. Approximately $94,000.
And that will all be offset by the money that we're going to save on the renewals?
Yes. Over the years, right now, as it looks, we're losing about like $30,000 between both TOT and sales and business licenses. So given that over the years, the 5 years, that'd be about $150,000.
For a net gain of...
For a net gain of $150,000 over the next 5 years.
Well, you're saying that we're losing about 150 right now, you estimate, over 5 years, but it's going to cost us about 100 to initiate or to establish this system, so for a net gain of about $50,000
For a
for the
net gain
city.
of about $50,000.
Okay. Madge.
Yeah, I was asking Manny today about maybe a couple of historic points in the TOT and the business license tax to sort of see what it has been over, say, several years. And of course, we have the COVID years that are a little bit anomalous, so it might be harder. But I would think that, if anything, that his projection of how much additional revenue could be realized by having this more systematic enforcement and tracking is an underestimate. I think he's been very conservative about that. And I think even just for the community, the business, and hotel industry to know that it's being tracked is going to up the awareness of, the need to keep up to date with that. So I kind of think that the benefits are going to be greater than what is projected, although, it's hard to, it's good to be conservative rather than overestimate, but I think it's really, when you consider the magnitude of the total TOT tax and the total business license tax, it's really important that we get on our, that we are on it. We have not been able to do that with the staffing that we have recently. So I think this is a really important step in the right direction, to have a systematic, trackable system to make sure that we are collecting the taxes that we are due.
So how are we going to check to make sure that we're getting our share? That's, I guess, is as good a way to put it as any.
So Avenu Insights actually does this for our sales tax as well, and they bring in approximately somewhere around like 30,000 to 60,000 any given year. And they only take a small percentage of that in order to be able to cover their costs, and then the rest of it is delivered to us as a report. And so this would be the same thing. They would give us a report basically stating exactly how much the cost of what they were doing with money and everything like that for the 16,000, but also then giving us a report of how much increased revenue collections we would have received. So we would actually be getting that on a per quarter basis.
So,
I believe that's what they've done.
Manny, I don't think you answered the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the question here is basically Avenu would have a better ability to work with the Department of Revenue on what the businesses or business activities report to the state. We don't really have that ability. Avenu does some of that, as Manny just described, through the reporting process, but then what this does for us is take it beyond that reporting stage and say, look, this one business X, has cited on your business license forms a revenue of say $15,000, but the tax activity, the sales activity that they submitted to the state is $25,000. So the discrepancy there. That's what.
and we haven't been able to control that or get
No.
any information on that?
Unfortunately, that type of information, to be able to gather that down is that much data down. And we normally get that, we contract out that insights and our people require that information for us.
So-
And then feed it to us in quarterly reports.
So we just haven't had the staff to do it all these years?
It's not so much the staff, so much as it is like,
Access to information.
access to the
It's
information.
navigating through the Department of Revenue as they transition to other software. They're becoming more digital. And so that, it's not as easy as just picking up the phone and saying, hey, Mr. Tax Revenue person, where's the city of Willits for the last fiscal quarter? It doesn't happen like that anymore. It's basically doing it like a database or a data dump, doing reports, tracking it, and then producing it.
So I'm assuming that while we could do what Ryan's saying with an individual, this would give us more, kind of the big picture and.
It's comprehensive.
Yeah.
There's also certain things that the state won't give to us, that they will give to an agency that has a license with the state to do this, is what we ran into. When we were working with Michelle upstairs in the planning department, she actually looked into this, and because she was noticing with the cannabis tax, that it was a little bit off. And she actually called and did some checking into it, and they said, well, you have to get a firm to do this.
So the firm can do it, but the city can't do it.
Correct. They have different licenses than we do to do it. I even have checked into other cities that do this. I know the city of Cloverdale does it. They said it costs them about 35 cents a business license to do the, $35 a business license to do this. You can't get a staff member to do it for that, for the time, the pay and the time that goes into it.
So I guess I am supportive of this in theory, but I'm a little bit concerned if the idea is that you feel that there's a discrepancy in collections from 21 to 22, because I will just say from my own personal experience as a business owner, there was a big difference between 21 and 22. In 21, we were coming out of the pandemic, and everybody and their mother had a card from the government with free money. So our revenue in 21 was very different than last year. So if we're thinking that we need to go after lost sales tax collections because of that discrepancy, I'm not sure that's quite enough to convince me that we have a big problem with collections.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I would like the council to consider not the negative side of this. Yes, the recapture of lost tax activity or tax revenue, business activity is important for us. But more importantly, this provides a new platform for business owners to follow through. I had a conversation with the mayor recently about the portal and access for a business owner to navigate, to get a business license from the city is antiquated.
On the city's website.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what this actually does, it will be a new website that basically will be teamed with our new rollout website, should be coming by the beginning of November, where a business owner or a entrepreneur or anyone like that who needs a business license, it'll be much more, it will be easier for them to access, easier for them to upload the information, easier to track it, and then on our side of that equation, it will route the, I think it was mentioned to the fire district, any other agency, if we have to do a grease trap or any type of inspection of that through the wastewater treatment department or Scott Herman at Utilities. It allows us, it tightens up. It's basically a software that brings that whole business license process to a much more efficient way. Yes, let's look at it. Yes, it's roughly $90,000 over 5 years. But that's almost, if I had to bring in one staff person dedicated to manage business licensing, processing, and coordinating inspections, that's $90,000 in 1 year.
Sabrina.
Well, I think in response to that, I have lots of questions, but when we talk about that aspect of it, we've been expanding in the finance department and we've been adding on positions, and we're basically outsourcing some of the finance work. And so for me, that feels a little bit uncomfortable when we've already been expanding and investing in that area to outsource. We didn't have a finance committee meeting, and sometimes our finance committee meetings are maybe lacking some new information. I wish that we had batted this around before and had an opportunity to vet some of the concerns that we have. I'm a business owner, and I like, in theory, the idea of being able to do this, but then I'm also thinking about lots of great business owners that are not exactly tech savvy, and this is going to add another layer of frustration. For some of us, it's going to be a perk. Others of us, it's going to be another challenge. I also, the logic of the savings doesn't fly for me. I'm very concerned, like Greta said, about the numbers from last year to this year. I don't think it's going to be paid for with the savings, because I think that many of us saw huge influxes in our revenue. And then when we're talking about what we report to the state and what we report to the city of Willits, I don't know about you, but there is, oh, that's so strange. Somebody, I have no idea how, but someone's trying to video conference me on my city thing. I don't know how to stop it. Sorry, it's never happened.
Speaking of tech challenges.
Gosh, I lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh, I'll just go to a new thought. The bad debt. So you were talking about missing quarters. I don't know how this software is really going to help you. I mean, we're talking about bad debt. Whether you have software or you have a document, it's still bad debt. They're not paying it. So is this company going to then become collections? Are they going to collect? They are. They're going to become essentially a collection agency to enforce that. So that would be a question that I had about that. I don't know. I have a lot of questions. I don't know that I want to sit up here and go through all of them. But I know we're just asking questions right now, but I'm not feeling comfortable about it.
That's the thing, there's a lot of people that aren't running everything through their computer. And, you know, I had a business a long time ago, and I had a real good bookkeeper and a wife that kept track of it also. And I just think that I think the idea is nice, but I'm not I'm not satisfied with it. I'm just not happy with that. There's just a lot of things that need to be done, and a lot of things that need to be shown a business owner how that they can improve by this. And I don't know if this company, I mean, I don't know anything about this company. Are they going to do this?
Well, let me just, once again, we have a good relationship with Avenu. They produce our, like Manny said, our reporting on a quarterly basis of the business activity and the TOT activity within this, the city. They also give us suggestions and recommendations on things of this nature, business licensing, what's happening throughout the state, economic forecast, what is happening in our neighboring communities related to business activity. So we have a good relationship with them, and if they're going to, we have confidence at the staff level they'll follow through on their proposal, what their recommendation or their requirements would be.
Could we potentially bring this is just a thought, I'd like to see it maybe come back to committee so that we could have a little bit deeper discussion, allow business owners to attend at the committee meeting to maybe learn about it and give a little bit of feedback, give chamber an opportunity to maybe look it over a little deeper. Maybe they have some thoughts here this evening, but I would personally prefer to go through the long list of questions that I have about this, because I thought that it was one thing and then I'm hearing a little something different, and now I'm a little confused.
I just want to say, in response, Larry, to your comments about, and Sabrina also, to recognizing that there are some business owners who, don't love the digital technology. I just have to say that I do not consider myself to be tech savvy. I'm a paper person. I'm a Luddite. But CDTFA, the tax collector, forced me to do everything electronically on their website, and it actually made my life easier. So I have to say, I'm weighing this and thinking if the city is going to force business owners into an online portal on the website, that might actually be easier for most of us.
As long as you don't make a mistake.
Well, but then Avenue's going to catch it and say, hey, this didn't jive with what you reported to CDTFA, and now you have an opportunity to correct it.
But do we want to spend $30,000 a year?
It's saving us money.
But is it really going to save us money?
It's 16 a year.
It's 30,000 for setup.
30 and
And
then.
also the 16.
And just for clarification as well, we'll still have staff available if someone wants to come in and needs help on, where to start the application process, what do they need, and we can guide them through that. And we may think about putting a terminal here so someone can actually navigate through the submission with a staff person providing the assistance.
Can we open it up to the public and hear if there are any comments from them before we...
It's just a comment about one of the questions that came up, and I think it may, I want to get clarification from Manny. I don't think that differential that he was estimating of how much additional revenue might come from this better process, more enforceable and more systematic process, wasn't just the difference between the 2021 and the 2022. That was just for a point of reference for us to understand kind of what the magnitude of these taxes are. But Manny explained to me, if I'm not mistaken, that he did it more, it was more like, somebody missed a quarter and they just didn't pay that quarter. And so you don't find that out until a year later because you weren't going through every single thing.
Yeah, so when I was looking at it, I was not only just looking at the missing quarters, I was also looking at the types of businesses that were there. And some of the businesses would, claim, I'm not going to put it on a blog or anything like that, but some of the businesses would complain that over the quarter they made $5,000. And they're a restaurant. So, there are some aspects of this that you kind of want to be able to kind of shore up. And maybe just the confusion of it and just kind of putting it out there. I just need to get my business license out the door, so here you just putting it into the bare minimum to get it done. And that might be the case. But our fee runs on a scale that is directly related to what is collected at the CDTFA. And so this would help us out and be able to guide people to the proper way of filling out to get the proper fees assessed.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open it up to the public to hear if anyone has any comments or questions about this proposal. And if you do, please come to the podium, state your name for the record. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a few, Ragda Zakaria, Willits residents. I'm glad that we're going to have an electronic collection system, computerized system for, is it only for the business license renewal? Can we also add to collecting the water bill? Or also like collecting everything we go out to the city to justify paying extra $16,000?
This is just regarding the collections for business
Businesses?
license fees and TOT.
That's it.
And from the hotels.
So how many, may I ask, how many delinquent of business license revenues do you have right now on the books?
I'd have to go take a look at it, I don't know.
But because like you need to look how many delinquent we have on the books. We need to see how many delinquents we had for the last 3 years. And what did the city do to collect that funds? And you mentioned that company will do collection. It's a long time ago. I did work for a collection agency. There is a limit up to 6 months, and then after that it has to go through an attorney to collect that funds. So just want to see how they are going to collect this, if that's part of their function.
Yeah,
And I'm just suggesting that open it up to the city to collect every penny the community owes. Like my water bill, I couldn't pay it online. I mail it in because it's very hard to go online and pay it, and they charge me fees. It's just an example. But I think we know how many delinquencies we have, what's the total amount to justify what we want to pay for, and for such a small city. Oops, sorry. That's it?
Thank you.
Just to add to that, with this new Springbrook software system that we are getting, we'll actually have a portal to pay the water bill. So that'll be connected online.
Oh.
That was from our last meeting.
That was from last meeting.
Yeah.
It's a different
So
system. but-
separate, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different system, but that will have something online for you.
Then, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Since we are going to be paying...
You've got to come up here for the camera, sorry.
Since we are incorporating paying our water bill, which will make it more, but I still would like to hear for the second, what's the debt ratio, how many accounts are delinquent, can we incorporate our sewer bill that currently, and I did receive your email from our attorney, that currently is part of our property taxes, which is going to increase, I believe, to $99. So can that be built under paying under that system? I know, I'm sorry.
Is there anybody else from the public who has a question or would like to make a comment about this proposal to hire Avenu Insights? Okay, I'm going to bring it back up to the council. Yes, Matt?
I just wanted to say I am in support of this, but if council members would like to have a chance to have more detailed look at it, is there any reason? I would not object to continuing it to another meeting, and just wanted to know if there's any deadline problem.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Would they honor the quote if we extend it out a month or two?
Or
I would have
maybe
to
not that.
check with that.
I believe it's 90 days.
90 days, you think?
I believe it's 90 days.
So we could go to the next meeting?
That would give us enough time to have a committee meeting.
I was just going through the pros and the cons, since I heard a few extra things thrown out that I didn't see in there. I just want to verify, it does do debt collection?
It does do debt collection.
Okay.
So your next finance committee meeting is the morning of Wednesday, the 18th.
Of October?
Yes.
Sabrina, would that work for you to push this back to Finance Committee, or would you like an opportunity to meet separately with Manny to have more questions answered?
I appreciate you indulging me. I wrote down the pros and the cons, thought about what you said, took some clarification. I think it would have been nice to have had it at our Finance Committee meeting, and got a little bit more feedback from business owners. I would be willing to change my mind and go in support of it if there was an agreement that, like we have in the past with other things that involve the business community, if we offered up a training session once we were ready to implement the program, and where we partner up, say, with the Chamber of Commerce, members could come here and get some hands-on experience on how to use it for the first time, that sort of thing for those that need it. And then also, when we go to send out our mailing on the new system, if we could make sure that enclosed in that are some step-by-step instructions, I would concede my earlier statements.
If that's your motion, I would support it.
I'm still not for it. I'll just let it go at that, so. But I'm used to the 4-1 thing anyhow, so that made a difference.
Well, I think
We've all been there.
I think there's some valid concerns. I mean, I am still, somewhat concerned about outsourcing another item when we have expanded the finance department. That hasn't gone away, but I'm also willing to concede on that and see the value in what we're getting for the amount of money we're spending ongoing for a service that potentially could bring the city of Willits to another level. I think when city manager was talking about the website, if you're looking to get a new application or you want to, all those other elements I hadn't really considered before, and I think that there's some merit in the value of those as well.
Bringing us a little more.
Yeah, I hadn't thought strictly about that. I was kind of thrown off about Manny's initial comments and got caught up a little bit in the numbers. But yeah, I would agree that I would go with council consensus on this one and retract my earlier statement.
Okay, so just to clarify, Jerry seconded, but did you actually move to?
I will so move to approve
With the training.
the contract,
or to the
so
business.
long as we make sure that we follow through with those two elements. The training and the step-by-step instructions in the mailing.
So we have a motion with the provision, and we have a second. May we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Strong?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Stransky?
No.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Condon?
Yes. All right, thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, we'll move on to department monthly reports. These are presented at the second meeting of each month. Anybody who would like to see the details about what each department has achieved over the last month is welcome and encouraged to view them on the city's website. We do have these written reports, but we will go through each department and ask if there are any additional comments to be made. We'll start with Kathy with the airport.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do have one thing to add, and you guys all got an email today. Our fuel alignment at the airport is up and running as of this morning. We have been done for 10 months. It has been a long 10 months. So we're quite thrilled with this because it gets us back in gear. And we have been dispensing fuel by key and invoice the last few months during fire season, so we're almost done with this tank of fuel, and we'll be able to reload and get going again. So I really want to thank our tenants for bearing with us during this time, because it's not been easy, and staff for being up there to help out when they can.
And Mr. Kennan being firm with the contractor.
Yes, we had an incident. On Monday, they came to install the computer stuff, and the cable that we needed for everything was missing. So Kenan wasn't quite happy. He got on the phone, and they drove it over from Sacramento. So we are up and running. So we're very
Kennan
excited.
did what Kennan does best.
Yes,
Made things
yes,
happen.
and we're very pleased with that. So that's all I have to add. Oh, we do have a new tenant joining us this week.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Kathy? Okay, we'll move on to Dusty. Listen if there are any new comments about community development.
Microphone. Just start by.
Oh, microphone. Sorry. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, let me just start by. I just want folks to understand that I feel very blessed to help lead the community development department and to work with Davey Bowles, Taylor Perry, Amber Ojeda, Phil Davidson, our contract planner, Leon, Ms. Shine. And it's an incredibly talented, hardworking, dedicated group of people, and I find myself in awe of how they go about their job. But also, none of us are interested in just kind of being good enough. Everyone is trying to figure out how to become better at their job and grow for themselves and for the benefit of the city. And it's inspiring to work with that group. And I'm very happy to let you know that Taylor Perry, our city planner, was promoted to the senior city planner. She's been with us over a year, and again, all those adjectives I just ring true with Taylor. But you know, she doesn't have a ton of experience, and you've heard me say this before. Her limitations as far as her growth in the professional field of planning is only limited by her own aspirations and desire. Her ability to take on new tasks and strive with them with at times limited direction, her growth and confidence within the position has shown up. And again, I'm very glad to see the city invest in their own and for the city manager to help in supporting her promotion. So congratulations to Ms. Perry. Davey just recently obtained his code compliance officer certification, code enforcement officer. So congratulations to Davey. And is also has recently obtained some new certifications that will further add value to not only himself but to the city as well. So Davey soon will have his full certification for building official and some other different. The reality is Davey knows his stuff, and we are very blessed. And we don't need a piece of paper to know that Davey is talented, and all the jurisdictions throughout the state of California, you know, would love to have Davey as part of their team. But I'm very proud of our crew and how they've invested in themselves and are looking to seek that professional growth. You have a bunch of information in the update here. I don't think I have anything to expand on, but certainly when I'm done, I'm happy to take questions. But council may recall that we did submit a $2.77 million grant to Caltrans. This is known as the Clean California Grant. And I do recall, as it relates to the Main Street plan, the improvements that we have in there are the banner over Main Street near its intersection with Oak Street, as well as the street lights that were envisioned to augment the existing lighting in the downtown area. So if we are successful, we'll have funding to support that improvement as well. I talked to Caltrans staff today, and we're hoping that announcements come out on Friday. Again, this is a very competitive grant. It was so rewarding to see our team come together. At one point, we had all of us working on different aspects of the grant, and I thought I was going to have to kind of identify different tasks for individuals, and they had already, people just sort of picked up something, talked to each other, and with ease was working on different components of the grant and communicating at a high level. So we definitely did a good job of putting our best foot forward for the city, and hopefully we'll have a word here later this week. So certainly as we get word, we'll pass that on. But other than that, happy to answer any questions that council may have.
I have a question for you. What is it called when a city doesn't complete its housing element and then contractors or developers have the option to introduce a project that requires no input from the council or staff because that housing element is not complete? Do you know what I'm talking about?
There's a few thoughts that came to mind. I mean, that's not the situation for us. We are compliant with our housing elements, so I guess throw that out there first. There is an extreme situation where if a community fails to update their housing element or fails to identify through that housing element update lands available to support all types of housings for all the full spectrum of income groups, the state can take local control away for you from certain projects and basically take that that local authority away. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what you're referring to.
It is, exactly,
Okay.
and there's some name for it, but which I'm not remembering.
Suspension of local zoning.
Yeah, there was some, anyway, I wanted to bring this up because my brother-in-law is actually on the planning commission down in San Mateo County, and they are not in compliance because they didn't complete their housing element, and they're in a situation now where they have multiple developers who are introducing projects that are very, let's say, non-compliant with the wishes of the city council and the staff of the city. And their hands are tied because they're not in compliance. And it made me so grateful that our community development department did complete our housing element in a timely fashion and that we are up to date. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you and also acknowledge that we're well on our way to completing our, which is it, the land use element, and just grateful that you are staying on target and keeping us, keeping local control local. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm glad you got to brag to me, brother.
On the trail, it says that the trail is 95% designed by the middle of September, which we passed the middle of September, and will be done in 2024. What's the kind of estimated cost of the trail?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and we did get the 95% designs from the consultants last week, and they're currently being reviewed by staff, including our contract city engineer. The total estimated cost of construction,
Just a ballpark figure, I don't have to have the...
Yeah, it's over 7 million. And then the other part of that is there's mitigation work that has to be completed to the tune of approximately $500,000. That's not something that we were able to include in our grant application to Caltrans that we received award for. And so as noted here in the department report, we're currently working on a grant application to seek additional funds to augment the existing funds so that we can not only complete construction of the trail, but also complete the mitigation work that's required by the state agencies.
So are we going to be able to see this one of these days? Trail, I mean, like, can I come up to your office and see it?
The designs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we're still on target for construction to begin in the spring.
We are, but that's definitely pending success on this grant application. So we have a solid lead, and again, as we've been portraying it, essentially we're building part of the Great Redwood Trail. It's the Willits section of it, and that is highly supported on the political end of things. The state does have a lot of money out there, and this trail checks a lot of boxes. So it's not, you could say it's bicycling, it's pedestrian, but it's also in getting people out of their cars and providing that opportunity. It's also reducing greenhouse gases. It's a public health benefit. And so the beautiful thing is that, we hit a lot of boxes in the grant world, and, I hope to have good news here before too long, but there's a budget shortfall. The city engineer did their estimate back in 2017. Costs have gone up since then, inflation, et cetera. Some of the bridge spans are longer because we have to get out of the 100-year flood. I can go into it further, but the reality is we have a significant shortfall. But where there's a problem, there's a solution, and we're working on the solution end as well.
The material, of course, have gone up too.
Thank you, Dusty. Any questions for Dusty? Yes.
I've had a couple of residents inquire about when they'll be able to apply for those funds that the city had gotten a grant for to help people fix up their homes, and then also wanting a little more detail on if they utilize the money, when and how would they pay it back, because I couldn't remember all the details.
Yeah, so we did receive the funds. We've executed a contract with the state HCD, and we recently, and it's in the update here, we entered into a contract with LACO. They're going to help us with getting the program details together to present to council for approval. That's kind of the next step here. And then they'll also be there to help on the administrative side if we need help on some of the grant reporting and not. And again, the grant can pay for the consultant's time on this. We're also in the process of entering into a contract with another consultant group. This is CDS. They helped us with the business rehab program. They'll help with the underwriting on the loans. And so we're looking to have the program details. We'll hold some public meetings and then ultimately bring those program details, including, what's the loan repayment requirements, what's the maximum minimum you can request, what types of activities are eligible for it. I think at this point, maybe I'm a little premature in answering this. Again, this ultimately
Maybe that's why I don't recall the details.
Approved by you guys, but
Okay.
one of the options, I'll put it that way, is we loan the money out, and again, this is the state's money, essentially, that they would not need to pay us back until they sold the house or passed away, might be the other way that we
That's
would
what I
get.
thought.
And then when the funds come back in, again, it's being set up as a revolving loan program, so when that money comes back in, it can then be lent out again.
So one of the questions was, is it going to be income-based? Do they need to be low income to qualify?
Low and moderate, yeah, so the
Low
household
and moderate?
does, and that's a requirement of,
Okay.
I believe, of the state, so.
So just to press a little further, is it reasonable to think these funds will be available to community members by the end of the fiscal year, so next July, or are we looking at even further than that?
No, the program should be up and running by July.
Okay.
I thought that in the last report, we were leaning towards January 1st, and so I implied that I thought that that's why, but
So
you were
we were
thinking
looking
maybe
at 6
further?
months from when we got the grant agreement signed, and unfortunately, I didn't understand that once we got the award, it was going to take 3 months for the grant agreement come for our signature. So that 6-month timeline started a little bit
So
later than I
early
thought, because
summer.
we can't get we got to get the team together, and I can't start getting the team together until I've got the grant agreement signed. So we're moving along at a decent pace, and would hope to have some information in front of council, basically the program itself in the next few months, and then I would anticipate the program being up and running soon after that.
Okay. There are people that are excited about it, looking forward to it. They see it as it's their hope that they'll be able to finally fix up their homes with this funding from the city.
Yeah,
So
and
I
I know-
anticipate we're going to have more, you're fine, we're going to have more people interested than we'll have dollars. So they wanna
That's
know what
likely the
process
case,
is.
and this is a program, we should be receiving funds from the state for at least the next 2 years. And then I've heard rumor that this might be an ongoing funding source that we could feed into this program. But I think you're going to be right, regardless of that, the amount of money available isn't going to match up with the need of the community. Our housing element, our adopted housing element noted that we have an aging housing stock. So the majority of our housing is over 40, 50 years old. And we have a lot of folks that can't afford to make those basic repairs to maintain the life of their home. And the concern is that if they don't fix it, it falls into a state repair, they have to sell their home, they get displaced, someone else can come in and afford to fix it up and everything, but then where's our longstanding community member that's been living in the house for 30 years, where do they go? Right? So it's not just about finding opportunities to create all types of new housing, but it's also about taking care of our existing housing stock, and we have an aging one. So I think the council was very wise in directing staff to make use of this funds for this purpose. I think it's consistent with a lot of the established goals.
Most of the people that I've spoken to are on a fixed income, and so this is particularly appealing to them because they wouldn't have to repay it until they sell a home.
Right.
And they don't have the funds to come up with that large sum or even the monthly payments, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dusty. All right, we're going to move on to Finance Department. Manny, anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add.
Okay, any questions from council? Yes, Larry.
It says that we're going to send a letter to the county on the closure of the landfill. Is that the one that's been on hold for 10 years or whatever it's been?
Yes.
Okay, are we finally going to get something from the county on this?
I don't know yet. But the first part of it is that we have to send something to them, and we're finally responding to a letter that was dated a while
2020?
back.
2020, 2019?
either 2018 or 2019, I can't. But
So-
yeah, it's been a minute since yeah.
Yeah, it's been a really long time.
Yeah.
So essentially, the letter states that they had a financial obligation in the closure and the long-term maintenance and responsibility for the site. And they got back the letter that Manny's referring to. They basically said they wanted to see some accounting practices or some audits showing how the money was spent. Has taken us some time because we had to go back through 20-plus years of financial records. We're there. So a letter of transmittal will be made to the county saying there's some obligation financially that you need to present to the city.
Thank you very much, Manny, for doing that, because this has really been a deal with the county. They've played games with us for a long time.
That's the reason why I'm not 100% certain they'll pay. We may have to do more on twisting.
I appreciate your time.
Can we
Thank you.
expect that we'll have some legal conversation at some point about how we're going to pursue the county to get these funds? Because we've been what I would consider a little soft towards them in regards to paying up and letting the city of Willits carry the burden, and it's time. And I think if we ask gently, they're not going to step up. They're already aware of it. We've already had discussions with our third district supervisor for several years now.
I think that's reasonable, that may be necessary if they don't respond positively with our demand.
Request.
I mean, the first step is that we have to provide them what they asked for, which would be accounting of it.
Right.
So until we have done that, we can't start to say they're a delinquent in paying us. But maybe we should say, when we do present that to them, we expect you to fulfill this obligation within some time period, and then we can follow up.
Well, they are delinquent in paying us. Now we just simply have the proof. We know that we had an agreement, and they didn't pay
They
their
have
share.
asked us to itemize what our expenses were, and that's a reasonable request, and it has taken a long time to do that. So I mean, I don't think we can get, like enforce this since we haven't provided
No,
that
we had a
yet.
post-closure agreement with them where they agreed to pay, I believe, 50% of the cost each year of the closure of the facility, and the city was required by this agreement to prepare annual budgets and to do annual billings, and for whatever reason, the city neglected to do that for a number of years. And then fast forward about 10 years after the agreement, demands were made, to which they responded, well, we need some more financial information from you, which Manny is now producing. So hopefully we'll have a sufficient reply to their request for more information, and we'll take it from there.
I mean, I agree that it's been a very long time during which they haven't been paying, but we have not had the ability or the wherewithal to provide the data, and now we are. And so now we can look forward to getting a less soft approach to them.
All right.
And they're,
I'll go with that, but I know that we had a former city manager that was here before that gave us information previously that stated that we were submitting those bills. So if we haven't been, and now we are, so I would agree.
I just also wanted to acknowledge, pleased to see that we received payment from Brook Trails for their wastewater debt service, and look forward to receiving their share of the capital improvements portion of the wastewater treatment plant. So thank you for staying on that, Manny. All right, we'll move on to the police department. Chief Connor. Anything to add to your written report? This is your first go.
Happy Wednesday. Actually, yes. We have some really good news going on at the police department. Our recruitment efforts are paying off. And although we don't have anyone completed with the hiring process, we have some folks in the hiring process to fill some of our vacancies. And As of Friday, one of our senior officers completed the field training officer program, which allows him now to continue the training of the 2 police officer trainees that we have. That process is kind of extended. As you know, the field training program is 12 to 16 weeks, depending on the experience of the officer that's in training. But we're able to pick that training process back up and start moving those folks toward their responsibilities as a solo patrol officer and relieve some of the work hour stress from our current full-time crew.
That's good news.
Yeah, it is good news, and we've got some excellent candidates to fill, or to potentially fill, some vacancies that we have. But good things are going on, and we're moving forward.
Great. Any questions from council?
The field officer, so did they go over to Fort Bragg to get the training, or did somebody from Fort Bragg come here to provide the training?
No, so the agency that regulates police officers or law enforcement in California is the California Commission on Post, Peace Officer Standards and Training. And they set the rules and regulations regarding what training is allowed and what the requirements around those things, what the parameters are. One of the rules is that we can't send our police officer to another city for field training. So because we didn't have a sufficient number of field training officers, and we had an officer who was literally just sitting around, we sent her on a training exercise where she rode along with a field training officer from another agency simply for street exposure. The best way to explain it is essentially as a plainclothes ride-along, she was experiencing how another senior field training officer performs. So Officer Carey was at Fort Bragg for several weeks, but she's back with us now. And her field training is not yet restarted, but her office and the bookwork part of her field training has started inside the department.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Mr. How do you pronounce your last name?
Kolon.
Kolon. Okay. Yes. I was afraid I was going to.
I don't have anything extra to add. The staff did a great job. I've been on the job a week, so if there are any questions you have, I can try to answer them.
Okay. Any questions from council?
No.
I can pitch it as well as any questions.
Yeah, I think Ryan knows more than I do about some of the projects.
I just want to thank you for those pictures, and now I know what those vaults look like that we were waiting on, so.
They're large.
Yeah.
How did our storm drains do with this rain this last couple of days?
Oh, it was fine, not a problem. It was a light rain, so it just dampened things up, but there were no issues. So.
I haven't seen this street sweeper out lately. Did I just miss it, or is it broken?
I think it's under repair. There was something going on with it. I think it went in for repairs, the street sweeper.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious with all the leaves that fell from the storm. Do we know how long the street
No,
sweeper
let me
will be
find out.
out?
I heard something about that, so let me.
I think the last time it was operational was about a week or so ago.
I know it's at Main Street not too long ago.
Yeah.
That's great.
I haven't heard that being down, but that thing's so temperamental.
I'll find out.
I just know we had a big storm and it dropped a lot of leaves.
And it's going to continue.
Yeah, so I was just curious.
That actually reminds me, have we spoken to Solid Waste of Willits yet this year to confirm that they'll do the extra pickups for green waste so people can get rid of leaves?
I have not, but it's on my list.
Okay, thank you. Madge?
Yeah, I was just wondering, in both November and December, we don't have a fourth Wednesday meeting. We only have the second Wednesday meeting. So when will department reports be distributed and available?
I think what we had this question last year, and I think what we did was we dropped them into the December meeting. Basically, I think we doubled up.
Yeah, they were doubled up.
They were doubled up.
Okay.
And then I think we went back to the rotation starting in January.
Okay. So both, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on to utilities, which is probably also you.
That's me too. I have nothing, specific to add, but again, if you have any questions. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
We delivered water to Peterson Cat in Ukiah?
No, they delivered the loader, I believe, to Peterson Cat for servicing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
equipment, the front end loader, yes.
Okay, and where is Four Brothers subdivision?
That's the old Schwagi property.
Off the back door lane.
Oh, it's, right.
Yeah.
The new one that
Oh,
Mitchell.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it had it by its name. Thank you very much.
It's called like
Thank
Sudden
you.
Valley, Sudden Hidden.
Right off the back door lane.
Yeah, yeah.
The platted name is the Four Brothers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for the monthly reports. As ever, they are helpful and informative and impressive. So appreciate all the departments putting the effort into providing those. Okay, we now move on to number 11, City Council announcements, communications, and reports. Madge, we'll start with you.
Okay, the Sonoma Clean Power did not meet in September, but they meet the first Thursday in October, and I'll be attending from here. So if anyone is interested in seeing what Sonoma Clean Power is up to, you can come here on Thursday, a week from tomorrow, at 9 o'clock. Both EDFC, the Economic Development Financing Corporation, and the MSWA, Mendocino Solid Waste Management Authority, both met almost 2 weeks ago. And the EDFC is kind of struggling with the transition of not being, I think, won't be under Brown Act anymore and will not have the two supervisors being official representatives, and that was discussed, and I had to leave the meeting a little early, so I don't have, and I'm not sure it was resolved, but they're having to change their bylaws and look at how they handle a quorum and all of those things under the new regime. And Mendocino Solid Waste Management did have a meeting. The information was basically not very thorough available to us, and at the meeting I asked that we have written reports from the contractor who's handling the services now, and an update that it's actually a realistic budget, and I'm hoping that that will happen before the next meeting.
Thank you. Sabrina.
Mendocino Transit Authority met last week. The conversation was exclusively around the topic of the transit center, and possibly even the word transit center, maybe calling it a mobility center, because we don't want to just be focused on buses being the mode of transportation. We want to create a hub in Mendocino County where whether you're riding a bike or you're doing car share or other types of things, so we may be changing it to mobility center rather than transit center. But ultimately, the majority of the board, and there was lots of controversy and conversation, but the majority of the board went with the consultant's recommendation to apply for the grant based on the selected site, which is just north of Coles. It's like right, it abuts the property right there. That seemed like the most logical place. The property was available for purchase. One of the other locations was not available. It would be a long-term leasing situation. And then the third option was on Perkins, where the old savings bank was. And there were concerns about how buses would pull in and out of traffic and congestion there. Although the site itself seemed really nice, the movement of the buses wasn't ideal. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It's still we're still in the planning process and still many years out on actually seeing something on the ground, but as we all know, the planning must get done.
Thank you. Larry.
They keep postponing the thing with the western thing with the restrooms and all of that stuff. They keep postponing when we can meet with them, and so now they'll come up with a new date, I'm sure.
Are you talking about Frontier Days?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow
I
at
let you
6.
know that last week.
Is it, at 6 o'clock tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Jerry. Or thank you both, all of you three.
6 p.m.
Yeah,
Does that work for you?
that's our ad hoc.
Yep.
All right, anything else to report? Larry?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Jerry?
Larry covered the Frontier Days, and I think our wastewater ad hoc is now October 17th. And so that's when we'll meet again on that. And then Brian and I both went to the League of Cities conference, and I am now the first vice president of the Redwood division. And I know I'm edging closer. And Leslie Castellano from Eureka is now the president of the Division. And Tammy Trent, who was the president, she was from Fortuna, she is now the immediate past president. There is I guess the second vice president, but I forgot my notes there, so. And with that, trying to think of what else transpired, but we went to a lot of different sessions. Honestly, there was some that sounded really good, like all conferences, you go there and it sounds like this is going to be great, and then you get to go, doesn't really fit our little city. I think Brian made the comment there probably should be a conference for medium to small agencies, because I think it's really beautiful. They do a lot of things in Long Beach or some of those big cities, but their issues are a little different than ours. Obviously.
And just as a follow-up, I did contact Sarah Sanders, our division, or Redwood division representative, with that proposal that, it was a great conference, a lot of insightful discussion, but I think smaller communities, at least less than 30,000, gets lost in the shuffle, and made a suggestion that maybe the league thinks about holding either a one-day workshop, a mini-conference, a symposium related to smaller cities and their challenges. And I got a response back. Sarah said, it was a great idea, but traditionally, the league does not like to divide or use populations as a distinction, because that's how their membership and subscriptions. So maybe it's more rural or semi-rural or ex-urban type of connection. Something we're going to be following up on. I think there's merit for it.
There was a rural kind of thing, but to me it was more of a social interaction thing than not.
Yeah, they have a division, small town rural, but since I've been here, I haven't really seen anything coming from them that is meaningful.
I think the value with the league has a lot to do with preserving local control. Whenever things happen in Sacramento, a lot of times I think they take the attitude that one size fits all, and it doesn't. And the whole idea with the league has been that they're trying to let us decide things, so that when the state passes legislation, again, we want the ability at the local level to decide what works for us. And that's the value I think I really see in the league. I think I did sit in on one. I think I normally try and hit the PERS things, but there was one I hit in the evening after all the other ones. But it looked like all the folks like Manny were there talking about some stuff coming down. I guess there's some things regarding cities being held liable for mistakes either made in collective bargaining or on the state level. And I think they sent out some sort of thing that you should have got. It sounds like it back a month or two ago, but I'm interested in getting Manny's take on that later on. But no, I think it was overall was pretty interesting, and met up with a lot of people from not only our division but other places. It was kind of neat to talk to other places. There are a lot of little towns. I kind of ran into them. I'd go, hey, where are you from? And then we'd start talking about their issues. And that, I think that's the value I see in that conference. I sometimes exchange business cards with a lot of these folks that they're doing stuff, and they're all have the same issues: water, roads, etc. I mean, it's the same everywhere. And trying to hire cops. Everybody is having a problem trying to hire cops.
Cops, planners, engineers.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like this is the year everybody is going back in the private sector, I think. So that's what I think.
Thank you. I will be attending the MCOG meeting this coming Monday, and I will attend in person down in Ukiah, and I will report out on that at the next meeting. We'll move on to item 12. Anybody have any good and welfare?
On October 8th, Will is having the 5th in our Building Community series of community gatherings. And this one is going to be focused on farm-to-school grant opportunities. The representative from the California Department of Food and Agriculture is going to be our guest speaker. They have $60 million to distribute statewide for any kind of program that improves the quality of food for our students. And every school child in the state gets 2 free meals at the schools. But we want to have really healthy food available. We want them to develop skills like how to garden. We want the cafeteria staff to be able to prepare food from scratch and not just rely on those, prepackaged things that they stick in the microwave, so that our school kids can have really quality food available to them. And at the same time, it would up our local farmers. It would enable them to supply food to the school system, and that would be an incredible boost to our food system for local healthy food. So anyway, this program on October 8th is at 4 o'clock at the Grange, and at 3 o'clock there is a cooking demonstration that's sort of in conjunction with that. The Blue Zones is sponsoring. I think it's a really important opportunity for not just parents and schools and farmers, but also the community at large to really improve our food security and food resiliency here locally. So I hope, and I think we're going to get some grant funding coming down the pike. So I hope people will attend that on October 8th, Sunday at 4 o'clock, or come early for the food demonstration. October 16th is going to be the School of Adaptive Agriculture Harvest Dinner, which we haven't had one for several years, but they have taken it on, and they're going to put on a big shindig. Harvest Dinner, it's a Monday, and I think it starts at 5 o'clock, and there'll be, hors d'oeuvres and wine and all that stuff. So go to the School of Adaptive Agriculture website to get your tickets for that, and I think it's advanced tickets are required. The October 8th event, by the way, is free, so anyone can just show up.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good welfare?
I'm excited that somebody invested in our community and created a pumpkin patch with a maze. It's always exciting when you see new businesses pop up. Business can be hard. And I was thinking of, it's not just about the pumpkin patch, but you know how much planning must have went into making that happen. And I just feel really grateful that somebody thought that it was worth investing in our community, put that together, and lots of kids and adults are going to have a great time there. So, yeah, happy fall.
And your daughter-in-law is doing wonderful face painting there as well.
She is.
Yes, yes. And she does adults too. So. All right. Anybody else? Good and welfare? Okay, we're going to move into our closed session. As noted earlier, the first item has been delayed to October 11th, so we will go into 13B, which is a review and assessment of our city manager regarding comments received from the Willits POA. Thank you, everyone. We adjourned the closed session of the September 23rd Willits City Council meeting at 9:55 p.m. The council took no action. There is nothing to report out.